Hello and welcome to Entrepreneur Journey. Today, my guest is Josh Jurkovich, founder of Minister to Millions and host of Business of Ministry podcast. How are you today, Josh?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show today.
So, Josh, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what Mission to Ministry is, and we'll dive deeper into that later in the interview. But kind of give us a surface level of what Mission to Ministry is.
Yeah, totally. So Minister to Millions is what it's called.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's actually it's interesting because it's a pivot that I did in my business starting about 6 months ago while I was in what I call kind of a pit in my life, and I really like what you're doing and your message on a lot of these things because I feel like we're gonna dig pretty deep into that today. So I'm really excited for what we have for you guys. So Minister to Millions is a faith-based organization where I basically flipped my marketing agency that I was running on its head and said, I don't really want to serve clients one-on-one, and I don't want to serve people that I'm not super passionate about and that aren't creating transformation for their companies. Like I was serving specifically e-commerce businesses prior to this. I would say back in October is when the big switch or the big shift happened. But it happened on the crux or on the backside of not being able to bring myself to sell my services anymore because I wasn't passionate about what I was doing anymore. And that led up to me kind of going into a pit of despair and feeling like crap. My wife and I were partnered in business at the time. And it actually took the most painful event in my life for me to like get my crap together, which was her deciding that she had had enough and separating from me in October. And that was the point where I had to say, hey, it's time for me to have the words that come out of my mouth and what I say I care about be congruent with the actions and the business and the people that I work with, rather than just going towards money. So Minister to Millions was born out of that, where I had this idea in the back of my head, kind of what I call a Jonah moment, where I feel like God had been pulling me to a certain mission and a certain purpose. And I was saying, I'll get there someday. I'll go that direction, God. It's totally cool. But for now, I need to make money. I need to do these things. So I think I know better than you do. So Minister to Millions was born out of that, where it's a tight-knit community of entrepreneurs, faith-based entrepreneurs that we just kind of come together and mastermind together to figure out how to create transformational programs. So the business itself, or the promise, I should say, is helping people create a six-figure freedom income. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by a freedom income is simply that I think there are a lot of coaches and consultants and people that are out there that are all talking about getting your business to a certain level, but we fail to focus on the entrepreneur themselves. And the entrepreneur themselves, like if you're creating a business like I did, that is getting you to all the goals that you always thought you had. For example, I had a huge goal of creating $1 million agency. Right, we got up to about $500,000 annual recurring revenue, but my take home was less at 500,000 than it was at 100. And I was like, there's something wrong here. Like my goals, my aim was wrong. I was trying to go for this big agency and to grow this big team and to do all these big things because my ego wanted me to. But the reality is I was struggling and I wasn't even able to take care of myself at home. So I was like, now I get to mastermind with people and work with people who are creating transformational faith-based businesses and ministries. And we get to work together on making sure that number one, at home we're taken care of, and number two, our clients and customers are taken care of on the backside of
that. That is very amazing. And how often does it happen that something tragic, bad happens, and it causes us to pivot and really reevaluate ourselves? It's always terrible when that thing happens, but something good often comes out of it. It's something that God has us put it in that spot to kind of mold us into someone else. But without further ado, I'm all about connections. And so I'm going to ask you some questions that aren't even business related, just to kind of so the audience gets to know you a little bit better. I get to know you a little bit better. So what was your favorite toy as a child?
Ooh, that's a good one. I loved Legos. Like I could say Legos in general, but like I just love to sit there and create things out of things that were nothing. And I'm sure that a lot of people feel like Legos were their favorite toy as well. But to get to know me a little bit better. I'm one of 7 kids.
Mm.
So I didn't get to have a favorite toy. They were all of our toys. You know, I had to share everything. So I loved Legos because we loved building Legos together. But, you know, ultimately, not many of the toys ended up being mine in the first place, if that makes.
Yeah, Legos is an awesome answer. It's so communal. Like you can do Legos together.
Yeah.
It's creative. To me, it's one of the best simple. I mean, it's gotten complex nowadays with some of the things you can build, but
Yeah.
one of the most simple and great toys that builds creativity. It's really good. I love that answer.
Yeah, I actually nowadays when I find myself putting together IKEA furniture, I'm so grateful of the Lego set instructions because it's
Yeah,
like the same thing. I get to put together IKEA furniture and it feels like I'm putting together a Lego set.
that's right. That's right. Wow. So tell us of a moment you were most proud of yourself.
Oof. You know, it's hard because if I'm really being vulnerable, being proud of myself is something that's really hard for me.
Mm.
And I think that's the thing I'm always striving for. That's the reason if you're familiar with, or if you've ever studied any of the Enneagram stuff, I'm an Enneagram 3, which means that my biggest thing and where I get most of the value is out of my success, or that's what I measure my value the most out of. So based on that, being proud of my success means that I'm never successful enough or I've gotten there. And it's like, it's really hard. However, I would say the most proud I've been of myself is the recent transformation and the realignment. Even though things aren't necessarily where I want them to be, I look back at what's happened since, and it's interesting. You mentioned like a lot of our biggest growth comes out of the moments in our life where we feel the most pain. And you know, if I look back at the man I've become in the past 6 months as opposed to the other 6 years of my entrepreneurial journey and my sales career before that, like there's nothing but pride that I have for my journey right now.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell us your favorite part of church. Is it the worship service? Is it the sermon? Don't give me the blanket. It's all of it. Give me something that you love more than anything else when you're at church.
You know, it depends on how we define what church is in general, right? Like we have our Sunday church, and then we have the church community, the church at large, right? I've been a member or been going to several different churches. I would say during church itself, the sermon is absolutely what I get. It's like it makes me feel like I get to go to a self-help or a personal development seminar every single Sunday for free, which is awesome. It's like going to a Tony Robbins thing.
Right.
If you have a good pastor, that is. I mean, I'm sure that most churches believe that they do. So that's awesome. I would say the sermon, number one. But secondly, if we look at the at-large church, right, like which I consider to be the communal body of the people that we congregate with as part of the body of Christ, I would say my favorite thing is when I get to have communal conversations and authentic, vulnerable, real conversations about the things that we struggle with and the Me Too moments. You know, those like real heartfelt, like goosebump moments where we're telling a story or somebody's hearing your story and it's like, and I struggle with that too. This is crazy. Why were we always so scared to actually be real and vulnerable about these things? Because the truth is that we all struggle with the same stuff. So, and to give you a little bit more detail on that, there are like a couple Wednesday night groups that I go to where that's the entire thing. And I actually feel like I get more value out of that sometimes because it's like being in community with people is what I enjoy.
Yeah, I love that too. Small groups is one of my favorite things. Our Sunday morning Sunday school, what you call our preacher actually does our Sunday school, and it is more like a small group than actual Sunday school. We spend a lot of time just discussing rather than just being taught, which is great, and I love that. So, and it's funny. Also, what you said is how often, like as Christians, sometimes we're overly guarded, right? We don't want people to know what's messed up in our lives.
Right?
And how do we get help if we don't let people know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So that's just my thing is don't be overly guarded, especially with other Christians. They're there to encourage you and support you. So
Yeah, I can say just to elaborate on that, and this is my own fault, and I feel like crazy about it. But I went to a church for 4 years after becoming a Christian when I was 30. I'm 35 now, and we went to small groups, and I spent a lot of time in community with people. But I always showed up as my representative. Is what I like to say. It's like my Christian representative, perfect person who doesn't know that I smoke weed on the background when I'm at home, and like I do all these other things. You know, I'm a different person with my friends than I am at church, than I am with this group, than I am at work, and then I am at entrepreneurial events. They're all different people, right? And that takes a lot of energy, but mostly the biggest part of it is that like I stole a lot of time from myself that I could have had in connection with people who actually cared. And I also stole from the people that were around me because I'm realizing now that when I show up and I'm actually vulnerable, it gives people the opportunity to say me too and to open up themselves. So when I decide to show up as my representative, I'm stealing myself from others and I'm stealing others from me. So it's actually like I would say the number one trick that the enemy uses against us is you can't tell them that. If they knew what you really did, if they knew what happened behind closed doors, they would never accept you. You can't tell them that.
It's like we pretend that none of us are sinners.
Right?
When all of us are.
Yeah, right. Like I'm gonna go to church and I'm gonna be perfect and I'm gonna be a deacon and no, it's not gonna work.
So let's dive into your entrepreneur journey a little bit.
Yep.
So I think you kind of touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but was there a time when you wanted something in your business, but God wanted something else? And just tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, I really like this question because I hope that your listeners and the people within the communities that you serve really think about this question a lot. Because, when I do my morning meditations and my morning prayers, it's like these days I'm trying to ask God, like, hey, what is it that you want me to do today? Because my ego and what God typically want me to do are usually two different things. So A, I could say every day, even now. But B, I could say it was especially prevalent back, a year ago, 2 years ago, when I was focusing on money as my biggest value driver. So I think that the overall at-large answer to this question is all the time if we're creating an idol out of anything other than God. Mm-hmm. What I mean is I was idolizing, for one, my wife. She was the most important thing, and it was above what God wanted me to do. And that's not okay. God's a jealous God. He wants to be the sole purpose and the sole aim for your life. I wanted my business to be the thing that gave me value, not God. I wanted the amount of money that I had in the bank to be what gave me value. The number of clients that I had, the size of my team, the size of the transactions that I have in Stripe to be a certain amount, so that way I can share a screenshot and so people can see how cool I am. Right? Like I see that all the time. It's like, how much money did you have to spend to get that? Is that really what you're worshiping? Right. So, but all of that goes to say, man, it got really bad last year. It got really bad to the point where I would work and I would work and I would work and I would work and I would hit my goals and then it would be empty. And I'd be like, whoa, like, wait a second. I just hit a record month. I'm doing better than I've ever done. And I always told myself the lie that once I got here, I would feel good. So, like, for example, one of the best months we had in our agency, we did about $55,000 that month. And I was miserable. I'm like, what gives? What's the deal here? This is the target. This is what I was going for. What gives? What's happening here? Why am I miserable? This is where I was supposed to be. This is where I was supposed to be fully fulfilled. And then I knew that happened and I hit that apex, and then we lost a client and a number of things happened, and I just I couldn't bring myself to sell anymore because I knew that I was working towards a goal that was empty. Mm-hmm. I was like, whoa, this isn't following a purpose. This isn't like, there's no meaning on the other side of what I've been working towards. Blew up everything for about 6 months. It's I guess you could call it a midlife business crisis.
Wow.
I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. I don't know if the next question kind of follows in line with that, but have you had a Eureka moment in your journey as an entrepreneur, and can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'd say my entrepreneurial journey is full of Eureka moments. I have too many of them. Just to tell you of another piece of the story is that, and I alluded to it a little bit, but I used to smoke pot like every day. And it was one of those things that after I became a Christian, it was like, no, it's fine. It's natural. It doesn't bother me. It's totally good. And as a creative person who I am, that would make me be extra creative. And I'd be up until 2 a.m, 3 a.m, doing whiteboard stuff and like, oh, cool. This is going to be my next new business thing. This is my new Eureka moment. When it's like, it all was actually right in front of me the whole time. But I would say the biggest Eureka moment is that within everything that I do, I do consulting, I do coaching, and I teach people how to create products and things like that. But the problem was that I was never willing to take my own advice, right? Take my own advice and set a stand on something, and set a stand on a specific client that I want to work with a specific product and a specific result that I wanted to do. I kind of wanted to just be everything for everyone. It's like, yeah, I know how to do marketing. Everybody needs marketing. Oh, you approached me? Cool. I'll take your money. Let's figure this out. Like, I'll do it. Yeah. Of course, I provided value in return for that money, but you can't grow a company unless you choose a specific type of customer you want to work with and offer them a specific result. It's just not going to work, because you will end up fighting tooth and nail on custom projects and custom builds and custom this and custom that, and you'll end up making $50,000 a month and miserable. So the Eureka moment was, hey, I can't think of the eat your own cake or whatever, take your own poison or whatever it's called. Create a group program, create something that training, something that goes from 1-to-1, which is what a typical agency relationship or a typical coaching or consulting relationship looks like. Like, how can I take this 1-to-1 relationship that's high ticket, and how can I create that 1-to-20? How can I give that same amount of value to 20 people that are the same, that I actually really care about? How can I take that from 20 people to 200, right? It's just 10 times the amount of people. That's where we get into group coaching programs, and that's where we get into digital courses and digital content, but it has to also be in that order, right? You start working with one-on-one with people, and then you start a small community, and then you start a small Facebook group. I'm guessing that's what Entrepreneur's Journey is. If anybody's watching what's happening and watching what they do. So how can I take the same value that I have been providing in closed doors, in closed environments that nobody sees, and start just giving it away? Because here's the thing, and you told me this before we actually started recording, that you have an abundance mindset. Me too. But that's new for me. What I mean by that is, we want to do all this, like, I need to hide my information. I need to hide my coaching. I need to hide what I do. Because if I tell everybody, then you're just going to take it, and I'm not going to get paid. Well, that's scarcity thing. And you're like, well, there's not enough to go around. People are going to steal from me. People are going to take from me. So I need to hide what I do and only provide value one-on-one when you pay me. But the reality is, look, if somebody wanted to figure out how to do coaching or consulting, they can go on YouTube and type in how to be a great coach and get all the free training that they want. But what they can't get is, they can't get a one-on-one conversation where somebody's going to be real with you and call you on your bullshit. Or a group coaching thing where different people understand community and have access and accountability to other people who are doing the same things. And within that, I think, especially in a post-COVID environment, I feel like I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but in a post-COVID environment, we're all dying for community right now. And as entrepreneurs, we have set a stake in the ground saying, I'm not following anybody else, which means that I have to be a leader, because there's only, even if I serve 100 people, only 1 out of 100 is going to be an entrepreneur or doing something like what we do, meaning that there's 99 people that need to be served by somebody like you, or need to, or want to be in a community to learn whatever it is that you do, or whatever it is that you teach, so I almost think that as leaders of men and as Christians and as people that are meant to go and make disciples of all nations, that we're called to create community and to be leaders and to let our mark, or to basically shine our light, I should say.
Yep, I agree. I agree so much. So speaking of community, can you tell us about a relationship or a connection other than Jesus? Of course, Jesus is the ultimate relationship and connection,
Yeah, right.
but that has had the greatest impact on your business.
Ooh, that's a good question. Over the years, I have had multiple coaches and consultants and people that I've worked with on a one-to-one basis. It's interesting. One of the podcasts on my business and ministry podcast that I did was with a guy named Chris Friend. Mm-hmm. And he was my business coach for about 1.5 years. But when all of this happened, I actually call what happened in October my realignment. And in case people are wondering and want me to close the loop, my wife and I are working on stuff. She's home. She came home in January. So we're okay. The pain, I was able to flip things around ultimately, I think. I'm still working on it. Obviously, we should always be growing. But when that happened, I realized that my alignment and those idols that I created in my life were wrong. So at that time, where my money went and my coaching and all of that went to my business. I said, I need a business coach to help me grow my business, because my business, if you want to find out where somebody's priorities are, find out where their money's going. Mm-hmm. Right? My priority was my business. That's what I was spending all of my money on. That's where I would spend all of my digital content, digital courses, things like that. I would go out to business events, funnel hacking live, like all the different things, and to try and get more business knowledge so I could grow my business. Well, this is a pretty crazy thing, and I'm so grateful. In October, November, obviously I was going through a really hard time, and I realized I needed to fire my business coach. And I don't recommend going out and just firing your business coach if you're listening to this. Like, that's not necessarily the greatest thing, but I realized that time and money, et cetera, could be better spent growing spiritually. So I decided instead to start seminary, and I also approached the pastor of my church, who I highly respect. And we do a one-on-one like discipleship coaching thing now. Nice. So his name is John Morales of Woodside Royal Oak. He is one of the most dynamic speakers and convicting speakers that he doesn't sugarcoat anything. It's not the abundance gospel. It's not the prosperity gospel in any way, shape, or form. He actually tells you how it is and convicts you how you should live, which is awesome. And his name's, like I said, John Morales. If you want to hear him preach, you can go to Spotify and find Woodside Royal Oak. And that's him. But I would say he has been one of the biggest difference makers in my life since this happened.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, this is just a side note. I had a pastor that I used to meet with that had since went off. I miss him dearly, because he had since went off to Africa to work there in a mission. And it just meant so much to me. We would meet at a little coffee shop every morning, and it was a discipleship. It's one of the best times that I can remember in my life of spending time with somebody. So,
yeah. The thing I want to point out actually with that, let me ask you the question, just to flip it. How did that start? How did the breakfasts start?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think if I can remember. I want to say that we had been friends. Me and the pastor had been friends for a while, and I think I just got to be more vulnerable and talk to him about stuff that I was dealing with. And he's like, you know what? I think we should meet every morning, and so I can kind of help you and strengthen your walk.
Yeah.
So
the reason that I flipped that is because when this happened, I had to get really vulnerable and actually approach him and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. I need guidance from somebody. I am in desperate need of discipleship right now. Will you help me? A lot of people are scared to ask that question because they feel like they're going to be taking something from somebody. But what I want to venture out to anybody who's listening to this, who has that desire or thinks that you do need a little bit of a deeper relationship, even with if it's with somebody like yourself or a pastor of their church or a deacon or somebody that they respect spiritually, is that the thing we need to look at is that part of that person's goals as well is to be a discipler, if that makes sense. They want to do that. That relationship is just as valuable for them as it is for you, because we grow in our faith by teaching. And we grow in our relationship with God and all of that by teaching. So you're actually, I'm not trying to sit here and say I did Pastor John Morales a favor by asking him to disciple me, but I know for a fact that there's another guy that I recently hired as an intern that prior to hiring him as an intern, we started meeting every Friday morning because we just started talking exactly like you said. I was like, hey, we should just talk. Like, let's be vulnerable. Let's figure this out. I think there might be some stuff I can help you with. And those meetings were the one thing that I looked forward to the most in the week.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that goes to say, if you're thinking about something like that, or if you want the transformation, or if you want the relationships that create things like that, don't be afraid to be proactive and go and find them, because they're there.
That's awesome advice, and everybody should take that. All right, let's dive into the business a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it's missions to millions, correct?
Minister to millions.
Minister to millions. See, I had it written down right, and then I said it wrong.
Yeah, it's even on your sheet here. Like, it's
see, minister to millions. Sorry,
yep.
I apologize again. So,
okay.
Tell us a little bit more about Minister to Millions, about who you serve and how you serve them.
Yeah, totally. So Minister to Millions, like I said, it's a what I call a mastermind community. A lot of people get that term kind of like mixed up. Mastermind community is simply a group of people that where you're like going really, really deep into each other's businesses in a community thing. It's a concept coined originally, and I don't know if this was originally, but by Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich. He talks about the mastermind principle, or the mastermind concept, where people come together, and this is the only place where math doesn't work, that 1 + 1 = 2, because 1 + 1 = way more than 2 when you put two heads together. And it works even more in the compound effect when you put a bunch of people together to help each other grow their businesses. So the idea is, and what we're working on, is a group of tight-knit individuals who are all working to grow their coaching, consulting, community, faith-based ministries, right? I call it, if you're looking specifically at what I call the customer avatar, or who we serve, it's people who are doing something that for the people that they serve, there's a very clear before state. I help somebody who's here, and then there's a very clear result that we help them achieve. And it's something that's going to be aligned with the kingdom. So we help families get off screen time and save themselves on the internet by reducing screen time and helping them do blackout things. Or we help premarital ministries, or we help people live their 10, or live their best, or live their best lives, or live in the fitness lives. Like for me personally, I'm a member of a separate program called Wake Up Warrior, if you're familiar with it.
I am familiar with that.
I've been in that for a while, and it's actually really helped with my transformation. But a big part of what he talks about is being well-defined in all different domains, in your body, like your fitness and your fuel and things like that, in your being, so your relationship with yourself and God, your balance, so your relationship with your wife and family and other people, and then your business as well. Now, I've discovered that I like that, but I only like it to an extent, because I think that you shouldn't make all four of those equal, right? Those are the 4 different domains, and you're trying to, his message is have it all in all of these different domains. But the way that I see it is that there's God, and then your body is meant to serve the kingdom. And then your relationship with God and your relationship with yourself and your certainty of who you are is meant to serve the kingdom. And your relationships with your wife and your family and your community is also meant to serve the kingdom. And it needs to be in that order. Otherwise, because when you mix them up, you're going to run into problems every single time. I can guarantee you that if somebody's running into problems, you'd be like, well, you might be prioritizing this a little bit more. If you're anxious or angry or upset, like, you're not doing kingdom work at that point. You're like, either your ego is getting in the way. I don't know if this is a lot of self-discovery work. However, to go back to what we were talking about, the Minister to Millions community is simply working with people to try to have it all in a lot of those areas, but most specifically, vertically, making sure that their businesses are aligned, their family and relationships are aligned, and their fitness is aligned. The reason that I feel called to do this is I'm a CrossFit L1 certified coach and trainer. I've done almost every diet program under the sun, and I'm working to try to be as fit as possible. I'm a seminary student, so that helps. I have a degree in a master's degree in digital marketing, so that helps with business. And I've been doing consulting and coaching. So it's like, wait a second, I actually know how to do all these things. I've just been like, and just to get vulnerable with you guys, like I've just been really sucking at it for about 5 years. I haven't been drinking my own Kool-Aid. That's what I was looking at. Looking for 4 years, and now it's like it's time to go. So the best way that you can serve a community, or the best way that you can show or work with people, and what most of the people are working on, is exactly the going one-to-one and charging what you're worth and feeling comfortable with charging what you're worth, and then changing that from as soon as you're ready and you've learned enough about your customer, going one-to-many in a group capacity done with you, and then one-to-all in a you do everything yourself, I'm going to create digital content. Because people do these things backwards, and it drives me nuts. It's like, how are you going to get rich, or what are you doing for your business? Oh, I'm creating this digital course.
Right.
How are you creating that? Oh, well, I think people really need to learn about this, so I'm going to record a bunch of videos. Oh, how do you know what they need to learn? Oh, well, I just kind of know how to do it. I'm like, you haven't worked with anybody. You're not letting them tell you what to make. Because the funny thing is, when you work one-to-one with somebody, they teach you all the content that you need to teach one-to-many. When you work one-to-many with people, they teach you everything to put into the course. You can't do that backwards. There's no one funnel away challenge where you're going to get rich right away without working with people. It's a lie.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, guys, it's just like you said. You're going to get when you finally do release a course, it's going to be so much better than what you would have put up first, because you're going to have all the you're going to speak to more of the pain points. You're going to solve the problem a lot better than you would have if you would have just thrown it out there originally.
Yeah, everybody, but it's what's sexy, right? Like that's what we have to be really careful what we see, right? And really, like, one of the things I've been focusing on, or at least what I think the Bible says to do, is trying to look at things from an eternal perspective. But I also look at that from a meta scale, right? All these people that come out with courses that we buy, what did they do first? Because you'll notice that it wasn't the course. It's not what they're teaching you. So watch what they do, not what they tell you to do. Because you'll notice that the course was created through trial and error and through working with customers. I call it user-generated courses. Because when you work one-on-one intimately with people, like, you can just record your calls. Like, record your coaching calls as you take people through it, and then put that up somewhere. That'll probably be more valuable than what you think your course needs to be. I don't know. That sounds crazy, but people think that there's all these barriers. This is the reason I haven't started my group coaching program. It's because I don't have my course ready yet. It's because I haven't figured out exactly all the pieces. I haven't done all the worksheets. I haven't done all that. I'm going to be real with you guys. I have nothing done for Minister to Millions right now. I have it mapped out. I know exactly what I'm going to be teaching, but the deliverables for it are that, hey, we're going to come together, we're going to mastermind, and we're going to work together every single week on Wednesdays and on Fridays. And on Wednesdays, I'm doing a training with somebody, and on Fridays, I'm doing a Q&A. And then during the week, I am going to create a video for you that teaches you something that you ask me every single day. User-generated course.
That's right. That sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. I think that's the way to go. So let me ask you some more questions around your business.
Yeah.
Why do you think most believers or a lot of believers struggle to incorporate a mission element into their business?
Fear. I think you're scared of being judged, right? Like it's, I can't tell you why most people do it, but I can tell you why I didn't. And the reason that I don't think I did is because I was scared to cut off part of the community, or I was living in scarcity, thinking that if I plant this flag, then I have to stick to that flag. Or I was scared of being judged, or I was scared that people are going to think, oh man, if he's a Christian, he's not cool. Or, so why do I think that people don't do it? Because it's the hard thing to do. But also, I think it's not just fear, but it's also the deception, right? Of the, not to get crazy into spiritual warfare or any, like go down any of those rabbit holes, but I think that if we are about to try and run and do a purpose-based or mission-based business, there will be resistance that we run into. There's going to be warfare. There are going to be battles. Everything's going to come at you at that time, because the worst thing that can happen from the enemy is for you to be successful.
Right.
But if you see that for what it is and say, hey, you're not taking me out today. My car might need a $6,000 repair, which it actually does right now. But that's not going to keep me from creating this video right now, because I'm not letting you win. Right?
Right.
There will be things that come at you, and it will take you out if you don't know what it is. Like, you'll end up with depression, or it's not depression, but like you'll just wake up and like, I don't feel like it today, or I'm too overwhelmed, or I'm not good enough, or like all these things. Like, I'm not ready. I don't have enough education right now. I need to buy another course. I need to buy another program. I need Doug to give me permission to go. It's funny because as I work with coaches and consultants and people that are high up and extremely successful, I've heard many of them say, my entire job is to write permission slips.
Wow.
Your job, as most consultants say, yeah, that's a really good idea. Go.
Yeah.
And that's all people are looking for, that little piece of validation, that little permission slip. So I think it's because they don't feel like they have permission.
Yeah. I think you're right. So as we discussed earlier, there are our plans and God's plans. Can you speak on listening and following to what God wants us to do and to align your goals and plans with that?
Yeah. You asked really good questions, by the way.
Thanks.
I don't even think this. Oh yeah, this one was okay. Yeah, you asked really good questions. Here's the thing. God speaks to us all in different ways. Some people believe he does. Some people believe he doesn't. Even if you're not spiritual, you don't have to be a Christian for God to speak to you. And you can call it the universe, and you can call it a power. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It's still a Holy Spirit. It's still something speaking to you. And it could be through a gut feeling. It could be through a conscience. It could be through a little angel on your shoulder, or a voice that speaks in your mouth, in your ear, or it could just be a thought that comes to you while you're in the shower. So that last one is actually a really common thing for me. Shower ideas. It's the ideas that pop into our head and we have no idea where they came from when we're not thinking about anything. That's why meditation is such a powerful instrument. And most Christians don't love meditation, right? But it is one of the most powerful things, because if you're actually able to clear your mind, then you're able to hear. One of the things I try and pray in the mornings is, God, like, let me hear you today. Let me stop talking to you and praying to you and just shut up and listen. Because our goals and plans and all of that are noisy. But God's, it's calm, it's peaceful. When you hear that, you know what you're supposed to do. It's scary. It's like, oh, you want me to go and fire all of my clients? You want me to stop selling these things? You want me to go from $55,000 a month back down to zero? Why would I ever do that? That sounds crazy. And then we fight it. Then we're Jonah. It's like, wait a second, you want me to go to Nineveh?
Right.
No, I'm going to go this other direction. I'm going to hop on this ship with these guys.
And you're trying to say your ideas are better than God's, which they never are.
I guess that's a good point. It's like, before you do anything, it's like, is this my ego idea, or is this a God idea? I don't know. And I think you'll find out pretty quickly if it's not a God idea.
Yeah, I try and pray all the time about whether this is something that I want, or is this something that God wants for me? So,
you know what's interesting? As part of my Minister to Millions course, right? The other day I was live in our community, in our group, and that's actually, I don't think that anything happens on accident, right? I hired an intern this week, and part of what he's going to be doing is organic prospecting and finding people for our communities and things like that. And as we were doing that, one of the very first people that popped up in this Christians group thing was you. I was like, oh, check this out. I'm going to like, and I was doing this live. I'm like, I'm going to message him and I'm going to, show you the 3 things that you should do in one of these messages, and we're going to connect. Right. Like, and it was really cool. I'm like, here's how you go and you try and create relationships and find people who are either in your target customer thing or people who also serve the same community that you do. And it's like, just reach out to them. It's like, what do you have that's scary for me to reach out to Doug and say, Doug, you want to be on my podcast? I'll be on your podcast. Let's scratch each other's backs and help each other. It's awesome. Right. Like we all, if it's a kingdom thing, we're all working towards the same goals.
That's right.
There's no scarcity and there's no competition. It's all abundant.
Yep.
And all of that goes to say, I don't think things happen on accident. I think God's plans and God's ideas, like you just notice as you're working through them, you're like, wow, that is such a crazy coincidence that this happened. Like how nuts is it that this aligned and this aligned and this aligned and that led me here. And this is the thing that's helping. I don't know, but there's only one explanation, I think.
Yeah. And I agree. And you need to, everyone needs to pay attention to when those opportunities are coming, and pray about them. I mean, ultimately you need to make a decision, and don't continue to pray on something until you're exhausted. You're going to have to make a decision, but listen to what God is telling you, and take opportunities as they come and make sound decisions.
I would almost say, like, and this is going to sound crazy, but test him in it.
Yeah.
Hey, if this is what I'm supposed to do, send me a sign, show me.
Yeah.
He probably will. Like, hey,
Yeah.
if this is what I'm supposed to do, show me. And then you'll be walking outside and an eagle will fly above and you'll be like, oh. And maybe it's not an eagle. Maybe it's some other way or some other symbol that's meaningful to you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what symbols are meaningful to you. I know what's meaningful to me. And it's like, okay, cool. I just got the validation I need isn't going to come from another person or from a coach or a consultant writing a permission slip for me. Just go. What does Jesus say more than anything when he first talks to people? He says, follow me.
Mm-hmm.
Follow me. It's not like, oh, wait, finish your ship. You guys, I know that you guys have to fish and you have these other 18 things going on and you have a family and you have a wife. No, just follow me. Let's go. Mm-hmm. There's no waiting. There's no second guessing. And all of the disciples, all of the people that Jesus loved were people who said, you know what? I'm done. Okay, I'm following you.
Yep. It's so amazing. So tell us how to get connected to you. How do we find out more about Minister of Millions? How do we connect more with you personally? And
Yeah, so the website for Minister to Millions is ministertomillions.org. I think I also have something on .com right now with the application into the mastermind, but that's not something, it's not really open right now because we only, there's like an application process and different things like that. But ministertomillions.org, or you can just find me on Facebook or Instagram at Josh Jurkovich, JoshJurkovich, Josh Jurkovich.
I'll put those links below the video too, so you can connect there. So it has been awesome having you, Josh, and I think we just built a connection, and this is going to be a friendship that lasts. I know we kind of just met, but I vibe with you.
Yeah, man, I want to mastermind with you. Like, it's awesome. I know that you're doing a lot of I hope this is valuable for the people in your audience. Like,
as I was listening to your answers, I was thinking, this is a nugget. I was trying to think, because we always do a clip to put out on social media, and I was like, well, this is a really awesome nugget. Oh wait, here's another awesome nugget. So it's going to be hard for me to decide what to use as a clip. So I think it's going to be a lot of value. Lot of value.
Awesome. Well, you're doing amazing things with your entrepreneur's journey and all that kind of stuff. I love the term journey in and of itself, because that truly is what we're on, where every single one of us are on a journey. There is no destination, because the destination is heaven, which is beautiful when you really think about it. But I love what you're doing, man. So thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm grateful.
Yeah, I'm just putting this out in the universe, and this is probably the first time I'm saying it publicly, but one of my goals is to do, COVID has kind of taken me off the track of that, but I want to do a live mastermind with Entrepreneur Journey, and invite people from the group there. And I think I'd want you there for sure. So
okay, I'm in.
Awesome.
100%.
Awesome. I just got to think strategically about how I'm going to build that out.
Yeah. Where are you
So,
located?
I am in the upstate of South Carolina, around the Greenville area.
Oh, nice.
So,
Okay. Yeah, I got my South Carolina. No, I'm thinking Virginia. I lived in Baltimore, Maryland for 10 years. So I was like, but we got our engagement shoot done in like the hills of Virginia. It's beautiful out there. I mean, it's not upstate in South Carolina, but I'm guessing it's pretty close to like how beautiful, and mountains and hills and Appalachian and all that.
Yeah, we are blessed here because we're not that far from the beach, really, and the mountains are like a half an hour away.
Yeah, it's like West Coast on the East Coast.
Yeah. Although I've been on the West Coast, and those mountains are much better than our mountains.
Yeah, for sure.
I prefer our beaches to the West Coast beaches, but their mountains are better. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I don't know. I'm a California lover when it comes to the beach. Like it's just awesome. But I have not been to South Carolina beaches, so I guess we'll put that on the list.
There you go. And there's some in Florida. Like you have to pick the right ones in Florida, but there are some in Florida that are also really amazing. So Siesta Key, just to throw one out there, if you've never been to Siesta Key, Florida, I don't know many beaches like this, but it can be like 99 degrees outside. The sand is ice cold.
Really?
You put your feet in it, and your feet are cold.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
How does that even work?
I don't know, but it was amazing. Like, when you walk out on the beach, sometimes you're like tiptoeing if you're in bare feet because the sand's so hot.
Yeah.
Not there.
Interesting.
So
cool. Well, yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for having me on the show. And I'll make it down to South Carolina. But more importantly, dude, if you're putting on a mastermind event, that thing is going to be fire, and that would be awesome with everything that you're doing. So, just like what we said before, like go, man, do it. Like just schedule it. Put a date on the calendar. It'll happen. I'll be there. You should sell tickets for like $1,000. I would be there.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
All right. Thanks again for being here, Josh, and all this value that you've given to the audience.
Of course. Happy to be here. Thanks, man.
Have a great day.
Oh, hey, really quickly, if you're still listening to this, I'm interviewing Doug next week. So he's going to be on my podcast too. So we're going to get to do this again.
Yeah. So, and once that airs, I'll put the link under this podcast to go to that podcast.
Vice versa.
So, and we'll just promote it in the group anyway.
Cool.
So,
awesome.
All right. Awesome, man.
Thanks.
Good. See you later.